Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below this video once it is rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, simply click the link in the info box below this video, but be sure to mute the page you are currently watching before you do so. If you do join the panel, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. Good to have you, Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are we?
Very well, very well. Got a sprog screaming, but other than that, very good.
Good morning, Eleanor. Right on time.
She's waving. Very cute.
Oh.
There you go. She said hello.
What do you know?
What do I know? I don't know how you got on with Sly Sparkane. I'd be interested to know though.
To be honest, Sly usually listens, and he may well be listening now. I'm just trying to find the chat. Hang on. There it is. To be honest, Sly's one of the better ball earthers to discuss with. He's cordial, polite, friendly. I like the guy. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. And it was cordial. We had some disagreements, and we didn't really swear. And we were able to finalize every single point. There were some points he brought up that were stronger than other points, which is expected. And he brought up 2 points that I thought were actually worth further investigation. One of which was to do with Ranty and his south-looking observation of the Blackpool prom lights at night time. I don't have a copy of that picture. Do you have a copy of that one?
Unfortunately not, no.
He made some fair points, which we should consider, because he pointed out 2 things that needed to be addressed. One was the lack of lighting on the piers that light up. In the photograph that Ranty had, it appeared that none of the lights were lighting up, and he was saying it was obscured by the curvature of the Earth. However, I know the counter to that, and I accept Ranty's counter, and he doesn't because he hasn't validated it yet, and I'm hoping that he goes to check it. Essentially, I gave him the counter, which was there are prom lights in the picture. You need to go and show that this is not what Ranty interprets them as. The piers are obscuring the promenade lighting. I did try and explain it, but I don't think I did it successfully because I didn't have the screen at the time. But there is a valid counter to it, and I think Ranty is the better one to do it than me. So I didn't shirk it away. I gave the explanation, but couldn't demonstrate it because I don't know where Ranty was when he took it. I know roughly where he was, but I understand all points of Ranty's counter. And the position is that the pier is blocking it. And he said, okay, well, if it is the pier that's blocking it, why is the pier not lit up? He said, there's evidence that shows that the pier is lit up. And I said, I don't think the pier is on all the time. I think it's only on in peak times. And at off-peak times, the piers are not lit. That's my understanding. Maybe wrong, but Ranty would be able to correct me on it. I'm pretty certain. But nonetheless, it was a fair critique. And there is something that I want to look into. And if Ranty's out there and he's listening, paying attention, join. Let's put it out there and see if we can, because I can re-represent his point. I know what point he makes.
And it's you're right. I think they are seasonal. I mean, it's probably going back 20 years, but I do remember going to Blackpool and the illuminations being off, and there was a big deal made about.
They're only on from November. Yeah, they're only on for about 6 weeks from November.
Exactly. They make a big deal about turning them on.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, he brought up a valid point, and I want to run it by Ranty, and I want to just check that there is an explanation for it, because he brought up 2 points, but the key one was the missing background lights to the right of the picture towards the roller coaster. And I said, but we accept that there is an element of obstruction. What we're saying is the element of obstruction is not the curvature of the Earth. It's something optical to do with this dirty air thing. So he brought up a picture of dirty air, which was basically smog. And I said, that's not what we're referencing. And he said, well, why don't you use a better phrase? I was like, because we don't know what we're talking about in this instance. This thing that we see obstructing the bottommost of the island, blah blah. Oop.
Oh, that took a long time. There will be a short interlude while I start a new hangout. Let me hear you. Okay, so I've got the new hangout started. Hopefully we'll be joined shortly. I'll wait about 5 minutes before I put the link out publicly. Suppose I could do some shout outs in the meantime. They Lie, Ohio, good to have you. Grim Reaper, good to see you. Was, nice to have you here. NASA Sage, thanks for being here. Ute, good to see you, my friend. Short to Ground, hello. Ryan Q, hello also. Pumpkin Meanie. What's happening is Fireball joined and sniped us within about 5 minutes of the show being live. So I've just started a new hangout. Wait for a couple of guests to join, and once I've got them, I'll share the link publicly once more. Karen P, good to see you. David Reed, hello. Mr. Flat Curve, hello. I think we've got Ruhif. Is that you, Ruhif?
It is.
Good to have you, Ruhif.
Thank you. I got an echo, by the way.
That'll dissipate after a few seconds. It's just when you first join a hangout that happens.
Let's try again.
Any good?
All right. I don't really know what to talk about.
That makes two of us. I never have any intentions to talk about anything specific when I start these shows.
Yeah. I did send you an email yesterday about this tangibility issue. If we can't physically touch something, what are some ways that we can at least make some educated guesses about whether something is or is not tangible?
I'm in.
Hello, Alan.
Woo!
Oh, is that not
Oh,
you?
Yeah, on
Alan,
Skype.
it's me.
I thought you were Alan for a second.
No, you didn't. You were just trying to be funny. So should I carry on about Sly?
We've got
Yeah,
Ruhif now.
go. I got nothing to talk about today. Go.
There now. Sod Sly. Got Ruhif.
Oh no, I
All
want
right.
to finish. I want to finish off with
Yeah, go
Sly
for it.
because he was actually quite fair. He didn't lose his temper. I don't think either of us swore. And I think it's worth giving him a credible shout out because he wasn't an arse. Like a lot of the ballers can be. But yeah, there was a ranty thing. There was the one about that Mount Canigou from France. You know, that longest distance photography. One of the things that he mentioned was if we live on a flat plane, where's the reflection from the sun on the water? Now, what we saw was the sun setting with that Mount Canigou in the background, and there wasn't any reflection on the water, which I thought was actually a fair point. I could do with bringing that one up and showing you on screen and seeing what the explanation would be on a flat plane, but my perception of it was like straight away was, well, he's up a mountain. There may well be clouds below the picture line that we can't see because he's up a mountain, right? When the sun sets, everything condenses. It would make sense to me that there wouldn't be a reflection line if there's a layer of cloud between the observer and the water line. That was my first reaction. But I'll try and find that Mount Canigou thing. It was one that Jaren had done recently and Slide jumped on. So that was one of his other point. The other point that I thought that he raised that was valid. Why wasn't there a reflection on the water? Because I'd previously said that when we'd modelled reflections over distance, there was no reflection because of the curvature. It bounced the light off the observer. It missed the observer completely. So he said, doesn't that support a ball Earth then? And I thought, on face value, sure, yeah, it does. However, I'm sure there will be an alternative explanation for it, and that's one thing that I said I would go and look at. In return, I asked him to do his reflections because he was talking about reflections, inferior mirages and reflections. He was saying that they are compressed. The reflection underneath is compressed because we live in a ball. And I said, no, at 30 miles, there is no reflection. So he was pushing the point that it's a compressed reflection underneath, which was an inferior mirage. And my view was, well, if you did that with an exponential curvature that's supposed to be there, then there is no reflection because of that curve. So he was basically misrepresenting the ball position. And I challenged him to go and model it using that 3ds Max, or whatever it is that he uses, which is a fair counter. He wasn't given the position as per the ball Earth. So that's one thing that he said he would go away and do. And I said I would go away and check with Ranty about where the lights were at Blackpool on the pier and the other point he made. And I said I would also check with regards to the lack of a reflection on the water on the Mount Canigou thing. And I don't know where that Canigou one is at the minute. I'll see if I can dig it out in the meantime. I think it was on that long. I think I'll try and find it. I don't even know how you spell it.
Have you got it to hand, Ruhif?
Have I got what?
This long distance picture that you had up a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Hold on.
Save you
The
the bother,
Big
Anthony.
Gaspard. Where are we? There we go. I'll share that. One sec.
Can you see the hangout, Anthony?
I do have it actually. I do have it if he's.
I've got it. Ruhif's beating you to it.
That's okay. No, not that part. The part where the sun's setting behind the mountain, and it's got the it's like underlit underneath. I think it's further on.
Sorry, not this photo. Not this photo.
My apologies. Not that photo.
I think that's the same video. Is that a video?
No, this is the photo. This is the world record holder photo.
Right. Okay. Let me share my screen. I'll show you what I mean.
All right.
Is it on, Nath?
Not yet. Just takes me a little bit longer when people are on Skype, that's all.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're on now.
Right, this is the part we were talking about, and what he was saying was, is this a mirage or is this a reflection? He said because there isn't the the trailing line of reflected light towards the observer, and I was like, that's a fair point. I said it appears that would be an inverted mirage, and I'm all right with that. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that. I could see why there will be an inverted mirage, but what his point is that it's a compressed mirage because of the curvature of the Earth. And I said, no, if it was a curved Earth, there would be no reflection whatsoever because the reflection would miss the observer because of that curve. There is no way that the light can hit the observer's eye if it's a curved Earth. It has to be flat. So he said, well, if it's flat, where's the triangle that runs off to the observer? And I was like, I don't know. I'll have to have a think about that. So that's the first question. Why isn't there the reflection going towards the observer? It's a fair point. What do you think, Nath?
I was only half paying attention because I was talking to my kid. I'm really sorry. Maybe ask Ruhif.
I'm sorry,
he's not
well,
going to answer it, is he? We need the
show here today. So all the kids passed out.
His question was, why does
can you not hear Ruhif? Can you not hear Ruhif?
Speak, Ruhif.
Anthony, are you there?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Excellent.
I can't ask Ruhif this question. He's not going to give me an answer, is he?
Maybe.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention, and I haven't looked into anything to do with this picture.
All right.
Stab your rhetoric, my friend. Neither of us know what you're on about.
All right. So Sly was brought up this Kanagoo picture, right? Which Jaren did do a video a while ago. Which, basically, what he's saying is, where's the reflection to the observer?
Because flat earthers use refraction to say that.
Oh, just got off that screen there. Is what Sly was saying is that if this is a flat plane, why isn't there a reflection? And I said, well, on a ball Earth, there wouldn't be a reflection anyway. The only reflection would be a little tiny dot right at the horizon. So what his position is, I think what his position is this apparent sun isn't the actual sun. The actual sun is already set, and that's why there's no reflection. And it's the curve of we're on the dark side of it, which you can tell that we are towards the Terminator line or beyond. And I think what he's saying is that there is no reflection because the sun has already gone down. Logical, reasonable, but is it true? But he said, if it's a flat plane, where's the reflection to the observer? And I thought, ooh, interesting.
Fair enough. Interesting.
Just bear with me. I'll come straight back to you.
No worries.
Is he coming back in via Hangouts or something?
What he's doing. I give up on
No, I was
messaging
just,
these days.
there was a phone call in the background.
Ah.
So so basically, Sly's point was, where's the reflection to the observer? And that's a valid point. My answer was, I don't know. I'll come back to you. It's a fair point. And I agree that there wouldn't be a reflection on the horizon. There wouldn't be a reflection on a ball Earth either. There would be a little shimmer at the horizon, a little dot at the horizon. That's the reflection point. So this doesn't support curved Earth either, because the reflection would be there on a curved Earth, but it would be right on the horizon and it would be really, really small. That's not what we see. We appear to see a sun setting and there is no reflection whatsoever. So on either model, that's quite interesting because there should be a reflection there on both models, but just different. And there isn't one on either. So it's interesting. And his obvious other point was to do with...
Did he concede your point that you should never get this reflection that comes to your feet on a ball?
Say again?
The reflection, I've just put my screen back up because I play these on every Hangout and everyone's like, oh, why are you playing this globe Earth proof? I'm like, okay, well, if you can't spot the obvious problem, which is that light is coming to your feet, well, that shouldn't happen. You don't get reflections to your feet off a sphere. That's impossible.
Yeah, that's right. The reflection should be on a ball Earth. It should be a little crescent or a little spot at the horizon.
Right.
And there should be no triangle to your feet.
Right.
It's not a ball Earth proof at all. It's a flat Earth proof.
Correct. That's why I put them up.
Yeah. But it is right to also question where the reflection is generally. But I didn't think at the time what Sly was actually doing was stating that this proves that it's a flat, that it's a ball, and it doesn't actually, because if the proof that it would be a ball there would be a little reflection at the horizon. If there would be some reflection if it were a ball, but it would be right on the horizon. But there's no reflection whatsoever, and I did think that was interesting, but not because it was a ball or a flat Earth proof, but because it didn't support either model, which means that there's something else going on. For me, that was the way I saw it. He did bring up that one that Ruhif's got, that picture that Ruhif shows. If you could share your screen, Ruhif.
Yep.
He wanted.
There we go.
Are you on?
Yep.
He is now.
He wanted me to deduce a horizon on here. And I said, but how can you deduce a horizon based on not having any kind of like level? And he said, oh, so you want to use theodolites now? And I'm like, no, ascertaining level doesn't make it a theodolite. The theodolite issue is a different issue. But what he wanted me to do was tell him where the horizon was. And I said, well, I can guess it. I said, but does it mean that I'm seeing, I mean, what is down, where is down if you don't have level identified, and you don't have level identified, you're going to guess it based on the peaks. So then he got into a point of, well, we're higher at this point than this point, so therefore the peak of this mountain must be down. And I was like, yeah, but the mountain is how far away from you? I mean, things reduce in size the further away they get from you, so there is an angular size reduction based on the distance, blah, blah, blah. And the conclusion of the point was you can't guess where the horizon is or should be unless you have the level. And I said, and even if you do, we accept that the horizon drops, because Jaren put out a really cool video recently showing that when you look through water, the arrow dropped. And what that represents is that although we don't have a 700 times more dense atmosphere, if you're looking 30, 40, 50 miles, that density is basically comparable. Might not be identical, but it at least explains why the horizon appears to drop, because you're looking through like a density
Was
variance.
Jaren's observer position above or below the arrow?
Was what, sorry?
Was his observer position, so his camera position, was that above or below the arrow?
Which arrow?
The arrow that he saw through the water. The one that dropped.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the
think it
video
was below.
and tell.
I think it was below.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think you need to repeat that experiment,
which was the horizon dips.
varying the observer height, and it will sort of destroy his point, whatever his point was.
Oh, right. So what you're saying is that there was a vertical adjustment that he's made to make it look like it dips, but it doesn't really do that.
Well, if you're dead level, then it shouldn't dip vertically at all.
Why not? That's what we've just gone through.
Why would it?
That's literally what Anthony's just gone through like 30 seconds ago.
No, he raises a valid point. If he's dead level, it shouldn't do. I agree.
Maybe I'm missing something. I haven't seen this video, so my apologies.
Nah, it's okay. I've only seen it once or twice, but I accepted the point he made. But I also now consider Ruhif's point, and I agree with that too. If the video, I guess. So what would your point be then, Ruhif? That Jaren made it. He manipulated the video to make it look that way.
Oh, I don't know if he did it intentionally, but I mean, if he's looking from below, I'm pretty sure we could do a Snell's law diagram to show that yes, the image of the arrow would drop.
And now Snell's law would apply looking through a glass of water because there is a medium change, correct?
Hang on, what was that again?
Snell's law would apply when looking through a glass of water because there are numerous medium changes, correct?
Yes, but if you're directly perpendicular to it, it's not going to do anything.
Maybe you could test that yourself now.
Sorry,
with a glass of water,
let's just get some clarity. I don't know what Ruhif. I just want to follow along. So perpendicular to what? The glass?
To the glass, yeah. Or perpendicular to the arrow. If he was level with the arrow, if his camera was level with the arrow, and he put a glass of water in front of it, then it shouldn't go up or down.
The only trouble would be that the glass itself is it's tapered towards a point, isn't it? They usually get wider towards the top, narrower towards the bottom. That would create an effect.
Yeah, that would change something. He did do a square glass, didn't he? Which would have minimize that effect at least.
He did use a square glass in the video.
Yeah, but again, he's still underneath
the
image arrow.
Backwards. He started off with a round glass and it's flipped the image backwards so that the arrow was pointing the opposite way. But then he used a square glass which didn't flip the image, but it still dropped the horizon. So perhaps if there was a very vertical adjustment, then that may make a difference. But maybe you could do the video to show that he did that and show that that's what would happen if he didn't do it.
I could. But I probably...
Well, you got loads of time on your hands, haven't you, right?
What's that?
You have plenty of time on your hands these days. You're on most shows.
I do.
And you have
whether I can be bothered doing that. I actually saw a good observation today. I was at the Easter show, which is at Sydney Olympic Park, and it has quite a tall car park. And from that point, I can see the Blue Mountains, which are 50 or 60 k's west of Sydney. And this particular observation would have been about 40 k's west. And there are a couple of peaks I could identify. So I'm wondering, can you guys propose an experiment or an observation for me to make that would definitively favor one model over the other? In fact, this is what I've been asking you guys for a little while: is propose an experiment that would favor one model over the other clearly.
Well, I have given you suggestions for what you can do, but you said that you didn't want to try and do stuff near the horizon.
Yeah, because you guys would just claim dirty air, and I would say no, it's refraction.
Right. So we end up with the arguing point, which is we see it because it's there, or it's being bent around the curve of the Earth, and it's actually a mirage. Correct?
We can test whether it's there or not, right?
How?
We can make an observation where either it is there, or the horizon drops away, or there's cumulative drop, as Arwen says. We can prove one of those things right or wrong.
Got that already. Got the lighthouse. Shouldn't be there. You know that, right? It's not supposed to be there on your map.
We're trying to move away from the horizon. That was the whole point of the conversation.
It's above the horizon. The lighthouse isn't on the horizon, right? It's elevated by 100 feet, the base of it, correct? Or more than 100 feet, so it's not on the horizon, correct?
Sure.
Right, so we've already got this. The lighthouse isn't there in your world. It's a ghost. We went through this.
Is it there in your world?
Yeah, we see it, and it's there.
Okay.
And you can measure to it, and you can do straight line trig to it, and you can calculate it out with the rest of the mountains in the background on a flat plane model. So yeah, it's definitely there in our world, and we see it. So that's a logical summation to make. You see it, it's there.
Right.
In your world, however, that is conclusively not there. It's an apparition, a ghost, it's looming, it's a mirage, it's a hologram. It isn't there. Right, Ruhif?
Is it above or below the horizontal in your model?
Above the horizon. Oh. Above the horizon.
No, above level. Above horizontal.
Yeah, it's above. We just went through this. It's in excess of 100 feet.
We can test it, right?
In excess of 100 feet, right?
We can test
above sea level. Yes, above sea level.
Yeah, level.
above sea level.
So it is above level.
Yeah.
You've just asked, is it above level? Yeah, it is. 100 feet plus.
Okay. No, from St. Bees, is it above the crosshairs?
I don't know about what you're talking about. There is no crosshairs in these images. You've just asked, is it above or below level? Or above or below the horizon? And in both instances, I'm saying, yeah, it's above it. It's above. It's higher. Yeah.
Okay, so if we were to take a theodolite to St. Bees at 115 feet and set it level, on your model, because it's there, it should be above the level.
I've no idea. You just asked for an observation that in one model shouldn't be there, wouldn't work, and in the other model would be there and would work. And I'm saying, yeah, we've got that repeated. So we've got two different camera people on 2 different days with 2 different cameras taking the exact same observation of this lighthouse that in your model is not there. It's a ghost, an apparition, a hologram, looming, mirage, non-standard refraction hyena. That's what it is in your model. In our world, it's just there.
We also have refraction in our model.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to assume that you're going to prove the radius by assuming the radius and inserting it into your presuppositional argument.
No. I'm trying to
No. You don't get to assume that you've got a refractive effect that adheres to the circumference or the radius of the Earth. That isn't going to happen here because we're here to find out either way. So we have to reference your model and what your model says will be there rather than just assuming naturally it flattens out and looks like a flat plane anyway. I mean, to the point where you're saying, forget 7.6R, just R. Light bends around and essentially presents itself as flat at the exact radius of the Earth.
Yeah, you've gone the wrong way there, Nathan.
No, I haven't.
You've gone in the opposite direction. Yes.
R is the radius, and you guys want us to assume that you can see your own arse in a telescope because light will bend to the exact radius.
Yeah.
That's what I just said, and you've disagreed. So yeah, I'll say it again. You guys want us to believe that light automatically bends to match the radius, therefore presenting itself as a flat plane. However, we've got this lighthouse, and the lighthouse in your model, it ain't there. Doesn't matter whether you call it refraction or not, it's an apparition in your world. So you're saying, what have we got? Something that would conclusively prove either way whether or not we can see this stuff. Yeah, we've got it already. It's called Morgold Lighthouse. In your world, it's not there. That's why everyone has to bring it back.
Do you understand that by saying R, as in 1.0 times R, not 7/6R, you've gone in the wrong direction? Do you understand that?
I've no idea what you're talking about, and I don't care. You want to bend the light to match the radius of the Earth, and that is a presuppositional argument that assumes the radius. That's my point. You're bending the light without any proof or evidence of A, that there's the conditions conducive to do that, and B, that you know the radius to put it into the maths.
We've got two models. My model.
He didn't say 1.1.
I can't hear anything. No, he said R, not 7/6R. He's gone in the wrong direction.
His point is, if you're going to claim a calculation based on the radius of the Earth, you've got to prove that there is a radius to base your calculation on. That's what he's trying to say.
I see it as we have two models. One model is obviously curvature plus refraction, and the other model is negligible refraction and no curvature. Why can't we test your model?
We don't have a model. So unfortunately, all we have is observations. That's all we have.
How are you a flat earther? You don't have a model.
I mean, how am I a flat earther if I don't have a model? You guys don't have scientific proof of Earth curvature, despite the fact that you've had 2,000 years to acquire it. So why are you levelling this at my door?
You just don't accept it.
Sorry, don't accept what? Evidence. Hold on. What scientific proof do you have of Earth curvature, Ruhif?
Okay. What?
Don't stutter. Let's get this absolutely nailed down straight away, Ruhif. What scientific proof of Earth curvature can you go and reference?
I've already been through Polaris, right?
Polaris isn't scientific proof. What are you on about? It's a star.
Then you're just denier, right? You're a denier.
Denier of what? Polaris? No. Let's just get this nailed down. Polaris exists. I know it's there. I can bloody see the thing. Why would that make me a denier? I'm asking you for scientific proof of Earth curvature, and you go, I've got it. Polaris. What an absolute crock of crap. That is not scientific proof of anything. That's a star.
It's a star.
Do we know what curvature means?
Tell measurements to figure out how far away it is.
Measurements of what?
Measurements of what?
And you're breaking up.
What are you taking a measurement of?
Say again.
What's your measurement of?
Of that light in the sky, whatever it may be.
Oh, right. Do you not understand what Earth curve is?
I do.
Right. Yes. What's a star?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what a star is? Because I don't, I'll be honest. But you seem to think you do.
No, I don't care what it is. We've had this discussion before.
So you don't care what it is. So you're going to reference something that you don't care about and don't know what it is, even though I'm asking you for scientific proof of Earth curvature, and you're claiming I'm a science denier because you've said the word Polaris.
No, you reject every observation.
Yeah, you do what Rumpus does now. Yeah, you're stuttering. So I'll ask you again. What's your scientific proof of Earth curve?
Let's talk about Polaris. Have you done any measurements at all to try and triangulate it?
Measurements from what? What are you referencing on the ground when you're doing these measurements?
What am I referencing on the ground? Your position, your latitude, longitude?
Your latitude and longitude. Don't they reference the sphere?
They don't have to.
Sorry, they don't have to. Do they or do they not work in reference to a spherical Earth?
They don't have to. They are agreed upon.
Or do they not reference the spherical Earth, Ruhif? Not they don't have to.
They do not have to.
Do they, though? Do they?
Yeah, they do have to.
Absolutely, you can.
Right. So you're going to beg the bloody question using longitude and latitude, are you? Don't beg the question here. Don't assume that you've got a sphere to work with already when you're going to make these measurements of the stars, Ruhif. That would be begging the question now, wouldn't it?
It's exactly why I said you don't have to use them on a
right,
sphere.
so you're saying I don't have to, even though those, what are they? Imagined things, longitude and latitude, are not physical things, they're imagined things, they're conceptual things, Ruhif. So those conceptual things that absolutely reference a globe to begin with, you want to use those to make your measurements, do you? That would be assuming we're on a globe.
No. It would not. As I said, you don't necessarily
that's exactly
have to have
what it would be doing.
longitude.
Those are concepts from the globe. They've come from a scientific world that has had 2,000 years of understanding that you live on a globe. And they are developed in conjunction with that understanding, Ruhif. They are part of your science that's had 2,000 years to prove curvature and hasn't. You just assume it. So now you're going to take that assumption, longitude and latitude, and insert the star. Nowhere near proving Earth curvature, Ruhif. Fail. Total fail.
I'll just add to my list the list of things that you deny.
What? Polaris is an Earth curve. Longitude and latitudes are concepts. So this proves nothing.
But they designate positions on the Earth, right?
What, the spherical Earth? Yeah. You're going to beg the question with this longitude and latitude nonsense.
Do you deny that you can still
Don't ask me what I deny. Where's your proof of Earth curve? You've had 2,000 years of scientific understanding. It should be abundant. You should be able to easily get this, and yet you're asking us to go out and definitively find a proof either way after 2,000 years of understanding. And asking me and Anthony, YouTubers, to give you, somebody who claims to be of science, a definitive way of proving it. Why have we had 2,000 years of acceptance of this utter garbage, Ruhif? Why do you accept it now?
Stations fit the model.
Models. So because you've got a model.
Yes, which makes predictions.
Model means nothing.
And you say you don't have a model.
Models are not scientific proof. They don't adhere to the scientific method.
Let's talk about what this scientific proof is. I think your scientific process is far too narrow, and it's clearly not.
No, it's defined. That is science. That is what science is. Science is the scientific method.
According to you, it is.
No, according to science, it is.
No, if you go and read scientific journals, you'll find that that's
pseudoscience doesn't count. Scientific journals are not the scientific method either, Ruhif. I don't want to go and read scientific journals.
Where else do you find
I want you to provide me with a scientific proof of Earth curvature that has had adherence to the scientific method. Journals are not the scientific method. Polaris isn't the scientific method. Your longitude and latitude lines are not the scientific method.
Ruhif, can I ask you a question about Polaris? Am I here?
You guys are cutting out. Oh, I didn't hear you then. I thought you cut out. Go again.
Sorry, I've just had a new internet signal. He said to me it'd be a bit spasmodic for a couple of hours while it settles. But question about Polaris.
Yep.
When you do your trig, the star that you're basing your trig on, is it in its actual position or it's in its apparent position subject to refraction?
Well, we've already... I thought we worked out this the other day. That the refraction is entirely negligible down to about 15 degrees.
Well, I do have some graphs that have been given to me by, what's his face? The Rumpus.
Better not be Steve Torrance.
No, they're from the rumpus, and he uses them to explain the effects of refraction. Would you like to see them?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Nath, could you, when I flick it over, share screen, sharing desktop. Right. Now, do you see my screen?
Hang on. No, Nathan's got to share it on. Oh, yes, can now. Yep.
Okay. Now, this is the rumpus's citation for refraction with regards to the stars. On the one axis, we have the refraction in arc minutes, and then on the other axis, we have its apparent altitude. And what it shows is, and did you say the first 15 degrees?
Yeah.
So I'll agree with you. The first 15 degrees, there is a lot of refractive effect. But what I want you to focus on is what happens after the 15 degrees. As this tapers off, if you can imagine this going up to 90, the scientific method or the science says that the only time that you get zero refraction is at 90. So with regards to that question I asked you, do you think you are looking at an apparent star position or an actual star position when you look at this graph?
He may have been kicked out. Yes, it certainly seems so. This new hangout that I've started has got some of the controls missing, namely eject. So yeah, I don't know why.
I can bring him back in on Skype if it would help.
Yeah, just put him on this Skype call.
Because he can be trusted. He's not a plant pot.
Hold on, let's just get rid of your screen while I do it, though. Bear with me.
Yeah.
You're in a moderated call. Makes no sense. I can see that you've added him, he just hasn't joined us yet. Maybe he's not got his Skype on if you're listening. There we go. Hooray. Hello again, Ruhif. Sorry about that.
That's right. Have you ever considered blocking Fireball?
I just did. I just have never had the option available as far as I could see. And now I'm in a different hangout. For some reason, this hangout's a different page than I normally get. I don't really understand why. But it gave me the option to immediately block both him and someone else. So I'll hopefully be able to figure out how I've got this hangout slightly different today. I don't know why. And then that's what will happen from now on. They'll all get blocked.
Awesome. What's your opinion on who actually snipes? Is it ballers or flat earthers?
We have no way of knowing that.
Oh, no. Do you have an opinion either way?
Both would be my opinion. Equally.
I know who generally does the most of it, yeah.
Who do you think?
You know.
Which side?
Okay, I'll shut up.
Let's get back on topic with regards to Polaris.
Yes.
I'll give you that the first 15 degrees there is a lot of refraction, but I want you to focus on what happens after the first 15 degrees. The science tells us that the only time there is zero refraction is when the star is at 90 degrees, immediately above your head. Agreed?
Yeah. We need to clarify the scale here. Remember that Steve Torrance video that you put up?
Right, that's the point. So we have the scale issue. So we can go to the Steve Torrance video.
Yeah. And you can see how it's a million miles from that graph that you just had.
Oh, well, hang on. Let's just see.
I'm real. Thank you.
That was?
G'day.
Hey.
So I'm just trying to get the I'm trying to get the without the atmosphere air list to 40 so that we can see where the with atmosphere value would be. Because the first 15 it says on that particular graph is a lot, but this video animation doesn't start at 15, it starts at 30. So I've got to try and find a bit of a sweet spot between the two positions. And it appears that if I push
try not to make an enormous fool out of yourself in the next couple of minutes. Anthony.
If I go with 40, because it's leveling off at 40, and then play the tape, when this gets to 40, what we should see is something similar to what this predicts would be a variation of below 5. So when this gets to 40, let's see how close it gets. Oh, shit.
I actually can't see your screen, by the way.
Oh.
Should I load up the watch page or something?
No, you should be able to get it. Let me just unshare my screen.
You've not shared in Skype as yet.
Oh,
but when you do, I'll share it with
my
Woz as
Skype's
well. Just let me know when you're ready.
Where are we?
Right, I'm sharing desktop now. You should see it.
Yeah, I've got it. But once you've got whatever you're presenting, I'll stick it on screen. There we go.
All right. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to
get it for Woz. Hold on. Got that? Woz that graph?
I can see it.
So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get a value. The Steve Torrance one doesn't start at the beginning of the clip. It already starts at 30 degrees. So straight away that puts the graph right at the beginning of the clip to here. So we're not able to do anything with regards to the beginning part. So I'm going to try and get it.
What's the refraction at 30 degrees?
Well, roughly. It's right at the beginning of the clip, isn't it? So it's not even on the screen.
Okay, so go to like 40 degrees in the Steve Torrance one.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and stop it at 40. Now, it's just over 40, but it's saying it's about 28, 27, 28. Oops.
Yeah, thereabouts.
So at 40, I don't know what the difference is going to be, but what the point is at 40, it's leveling out on the graph. And we can see that it's beginning to level out here as well. It's getting very close to it. And when it gets to 90, it's bang on.
Yeah, go back to 40.
It's about there.
Yeah, that'll do, right? So what, 28 and 42 or something? Is that close enough?
Sure. This is degrees, right?
Yep, 14 degrees.
Yeah, and this is saying it's about 3. But
3 what?
Either way,
3 what? 3 what, Anthony?
Degrees.
What? No.
Oh, arc minutes.
Yes. Yes.
Right, but how is that disproportionate to what we're seeing?
Oh, come on, Anthony.
Yeah, but it's doing the same thing. It starts off severe and it tapers off. And I agree that the scale is the issue. But the point is, when he gets to 90, the star is in the right place. So which one do we go with?
Is the chat going nuts here?
Which one do we go with?
Oh,
which scale do we go with?
The one that actually has... well, we don't go the one with actually no... hang on, sorry.
Yeah, but hang on.
Hold on.
The effects of refraction are supposed to be negligible, but when it comes to bringing lighthouses
in your
back,
graph, when
it comes to bringing lighthouses back, it becomes a little bit more non-standard refraction. And to quote Rumpus, to quote Paul Voigt, he'll always just add a little bit more refraction to bring it back. But that's supposed to be negligible. So on the one hand, you're arguing for a negligible amount of refraction when it suits this way with the stars. But when it comes to the lighthouse, that negligible becomes disproportionately advantageous towards you by becoming very not negligible. So it appears to me that there's 2 different standards here.
Let's quantify it.
How do we quantify it? We don't know what we're supposed to be comparing.
The freaking graph quantifies it. Look at it.
Yeah, but if this is the refraction that we're supposed to see with regards to like the negligibleness, then you can't bring the lighthouse back with 76R and a bit of non-standard.
How much do you think that is? Refraction 30.
Well, I would say at
minutes
40, I would say negligible. No, I wouldn't actually. I would say we're getting towards negligible. I wouldn't say it's that small or it's not worth calculating for. I wouldn't say that any of this graph is negligible.
We've got half a degree at the horizon.
Half a degree? No. We have. This is not negligible at this point at 40 degrees.
Yes, it is.
No, negligible is so small.
I think you're struggling with this graph, Anthony.
The definition of negligible is so small or unimportant as to not worth be considering, okay? But on this graph, there is a significantly positive value that is not negligible.
How big is it?
2.
Hey, the Rumpus, how you doing? Is that really... Hello.
2 arc minutes. Anthony?
2 arc minutes, right.
That's not negligible. For it to be negligible, it would have to sit near this line.
2 arc minutes.
It's negligible. It's small.
No. If it was negligible, it would be sitting just above this line. It appears to me that negligible...
Roger MC in the chat. Anthony can't read graphs.
Hey, Arif, is that really you? Hey, good to have you.
Hey, what's good?
Good to have you.
Good to be here. Hey. I think the main thing with the flat versus...
Oh.
Everyone's cutting out tonight. What's
Everyone's
the go?
getting kicked out. I don't know why. I've got no one in the hangout, and despite blocking the trolls that have come in, it's just I don't seem to have the same controls over today's hangout. So whether or not I cut today's show short, I don't know, because at the moment it seems like I can't have a public guest. But there we go. We'll see. We'll see.
Can Arav come on Skype?
I don't have Ariv's contact details on Skype, unfortunately. I don't know him personally.
I don't know him either. But my point was, it has to be negligible according to your model, right? But this value is
40
not
degrees. It is. It's 2 arc minutes.
Yeah, it's not negligible.
That's like a 30th of 1 degree.
It's not negligible, though. By this graph, the way this graph is represented, that is not negligible. If it was negligible, it would be hovering around the 0 mark. And we haven't got anywhere near there yet. We're still at about 2.
2 arc minutes.
Yeah? So small or unimportant as to not be worth considering. We're still considering it at this point. We need to get it to the point where you say, yeah, that's not worth arguing about. And we're still arguing. So by that fact, it's not worth it's not negligible.
So it's actually the star is actually at 40 degrees, but its apparent elevation is 40.03 degrees.
40? No, it's actually at 40 degrees, but its apparent position would be
exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's not negligible, though, is it? Otherwise, we wouldn't be arguing over it. It's a lot less than that. Try cutting that in half and then taking a bit off.
So how far is Polaris, and what would that make how much of a difference would that make in terms of its position? Because you're saying this 0 point something arc seconds makes no difference, but that would put it in a completely different location, wouldn't it?
Not by very much, no.
Are you telling me at that distance that a even slight degree change wouldn't make an enormous difference given the scale of how far away it is?
Well, no. Which distance are we talking about? On the
in your model, those stars are huge, insurmountable distances away from you. And if you make the slightest change, it will make an enormous difference at the other end.
Well, I think it would be a small percentage change. I mean, we could probably...
Yeah, I'll say it one more time. A small percentage change when you're talking about something that is a absolutely astronomical distance away makes a big difference to where it actually is. Correct?
In percentage terms or absolute terms?
No, I'll say it again. You're trying to quantify this down by using, well, it's only a small change in angle. It's only a small percentage. Yeah. Right. Well, that small change in angle at the insurmountable distances that the stars are makes a massive difference at the other end.
Difference in percentage terms or absolute
in where
terms?
It should be, where it would measure to. Physically, where the star in your world would be, physically, not that I think that you can measure that, but in your world, it's an astronomical distance away. So you've only got to move by a hair and you're completely off.
Yeah, but by how much?
A huge amount, that's my point. You've only got to move a tiny amount with something that is in the distance by light years, huge distances. You've only got to tip a hair and you're off. You're no longer pointing in that direction. Huge amounts off.
Yeah, it might move by 1 million miles, but in percentage terms, that's bugger all.
Yeah, in percentage terms. But you're talking about things that are massive distances away, so it does make a huge difference to where they'd physically be located in your world.
Not in percentage terms.
Not in percentage terms, in terms of where the thing that you think is actually is. You've only got to make a tiny difference to the angle that you're looking at, and it makes a massive difference to its actual location in your world.
I consider 1 million miles in space to be a tiny difference.
Well, then you're an idiot. 1 million miles is a massive amount of distance. You want to call it because it's in space. Relatively speaking, you want to say 1 million miles is nothing. Well, that's nonsense. 1 million miles is a massive amount of distance.
Not relative to the size of the universe.
Yeah, I already said you want to use the word relative, and I'm saying I don't care about what you compare it to. 1 million miles is massive.
Yeah, that's your subjective opinion.
No, it's a fact. 1 million miles is bigger than you will ever travel in your entire lifetime. It's a massive amount.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a big amount.
Relative to your...
No. Stop saying relatively. I don't care how you quantify it. 1 million miles is a big distance, and you've only got to move a hair, and you will change what you see by a huge amount, i.e. a million miles. So, yeah, it doesn't make any difference what you say to me in this instance. A million miles is a million miles, whether you want it to be a small amount or not.
How far do you... Well, sorry. How far does the globe heliocentric model say the nearest galaxy is?
A very, 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 very far away distance.
How many million miles?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, no idea.
Let's look it up. Neither do I, actually. Distance to... what's the galaxy called? Oh, what's it called? Hang on. Galaxy. Andromeda, that's it. 2.5 million light years. Light years to miles. 2.5. Oh, 1.47 times 10 to the power 13 miles. What's that?
I think I said it already. Very, 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 very far away.
Yeah, a billion million miles.
It's a very far, very far away distance. I think I was pretty close.
So a million miles in that context is 1 in a billion.
Yeah, I've already said I don't care how you quantify it relatively.
Well, I do.
Oh, right. Good for you. Million miles is still a very long distance.
Relative to your perception.
So, did we get to a conclusion on this negligible bit?
Million miles is negligible, apparently.
Sorry, thank you, Anthony.
Million miles is
million
apparently...
miles is negligible.
Apparently,
so...
Negligible in the context of the universe.
Million miles is never a negligible distance.
No, I agree. But also...
Well, we can disagree, that's fine.
With regards to the actual position, I don't think it makes that much difference with regards to how many miles it's out. It's the question I asked was, is it an apparent position of the star, or is it its actual position?
Well, I mean, we can. That's the point. Is it either 40.00 degrees or 40.03 degrees?
Well, that's what you're claiming the scale is. But my question was, is it an apparent or is it an actual position of the star?
Oh, if you factor in a refraction, it'll be apparent. Yeah.
Right. So, at what point does it become actual?
After you adjust for refraction.
Right, but we don't know the scale.
What do you mean?
Well, we have two conflicting graphs, one from Steve Torrance and one from the Rumpus, that both give similar but different variances. So which is the scale? We don't know. Which one do we pick? The one that we prefer?
Well, I completely discard Steve Torrance's one. Like he's got.
And I completely discard Rumpus's one.
Where did Rumpus get his from? What's the source?
It's from Bennett versus Altitude from the Bennett paper of 1982.
Yeah. Does Steve Torrance's one rotate at 15 degrees an hour?
I have no idea. But does this one rotate at 15 degrees an hour? Does this one rotate at 15 degrees an hour?
Past about 15 degrees, it'd be very, very close, yeah.
Well, but you don't know that, though. You're surmising it. It's conjecture, right? You don't know this.
2 arc minutes is pretty negligible. 2 arc minutes is negligible. It'll make, what, half a second difference or something?
But yeah, but the point is, it's an apparent position, correct?
Yeah, but by how much?
Correct.
So how many million miles do we want to slap on top, right?
Say again, you both.
How many million miles should we just arbitrarily add or subtract because it could be right, might not be right? It's not really like it's a fine measurement or anything.
No, they're not. I mean, how many percentage points?
We know. Just guess. Insert number here.
No, that's not how it's done, right?
Right, okay.
Sorry.
So, how do we know the distance to the sun then? If it's not insert number here.
To the sun?
Yeah.
How do we know this is the sun? I haven't actually looked into that whole Venus transit thing, so I don't really know.
Yeah, okay. Venus transit. How do we know the distance to Venus?
I don't know.
You don't? So I've just said arbitrarily insert number here and then laughed, and you sniggered and mimicked my laugh because it is laughable because you do just genuinely insert a value for the distance to the sun.
I think I said I don't know, which is actually
I do know, and I'm telling you. You just make it up.
Really? So like
Yeah.
a random number generator?
Yeah, so you said the transit of Venus, and I immediately asked you, well, how do you know the distance to Venus? And the reply should be the transit of Mars.
The Venus transit.
And we just go through this circle jerk of various different planets crossing in front of each other, and you don't know the distance to them. You have to assume the distance to the sun.
No. I guarantee you there's a measurement.
Yeah, I know there's a measurement, and you can use the transit of Venus, but you don't know the distance to Venus. You have to assume you have a 93 million mile away sun. That's an assumption. There is no verified test proving the distance to the sun. You have to guess.
Do you think, like, literally, do you think it's a random number?
I think it's
a
guess.
Really big number.
You don't know. It may as well be a random number because you don't know and you haven't verified it. It's not
but you don't think it's the outcome of a calculation?
It's a guess. Pseudoscience.
Is it not the outcome of a calculation?
Pseudoscience, my friend.
Do you believe it is the outcome of a calculation or not?
I don't care what the outcome of a guess is,
there you go. Right.
even if there's a calculation attached to it.
I got you.
No, guesswork. That's what it is.
No,
you can guess and insert value here. In this instance, that value is the value of the distance to the sun. That's a guess. You don't know it. Bit like you don't know the radius.
So it's not calculated.
Yeah, well, you can calculate the radius too, can't you?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Doesn't prove it though, does it?
What do you mean doesn't prove it? That's the outcome of a calculation.
That's a simple statement. Calculating something doesn't prove it. You can insert a value. Like you can insert refraction. You can do all sorts of things. You can insert values here, there and everywhere. You can model it. Doesn't mean anything.
With that model you create, you can
yeah, with that model, it doesn't prove the distance to the sun. I keep saying, you've just made it up. Science doesn't know the distance to the sun. They have to assume it.
What do you mean assume it?
What do you think assume means?
To have no
proof,
evidence
right?
For.
To have no proof of it and assert it anyway. That's what an assumption is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's clearly the.
That's what I'm saying. So you're saying you're happy to concede that you don't know the distance to the sun?
I don't know how to prove it. I mean, I can.
Yeah, it's not proven.
Think of a way.
Not going forward. Why do you do this? I can't go proving it going forward.
I'm struggling to
2,000 years you've had of scientific understanding that the Earth is a globe. So in 2,000 years, you would expect to be plenty of citations that can prove the distance to the sun without extrapolating it. You have to assume it.
And the observations we make are consistent with a sphere model, not
observations
a flat model.
Are not science. That's not scientific method. It's just an observation.
Nathan, come on.
It's just an observation,
Anthony,
Right.
come and step in and bring some sanity to this.
Right. I think the point that Nathan's trying to make, right, is that if you measure the distance to the sun using the transit of Venus, but you don't know the transit of Venus distance, you don't know the distance of Venus, then you all you're going to get is the scale. You're going to get the proximity relationship between Venus and the sun, which isn't in dispute. We know that there are distances involved. The issue is what's the scale. Now, to get the scale, you have to get a unit. There has to be a unit, something that's been measured, and then you get everything. What is the thing that's been measured to get everything?
Right, we've measured the distance to Mars using parallax. And then from that, we...
How did you measure the distance to Mars?
How did you get the distance to Mars? How did you get the distance to Mars? You said parallax.
Yes, right. So what you do, and then what Cassini did in 1672 was to take two observations of Mars from opposite sides of the Earth, and then using what I presented to you about, 3 months ago, showing you how you can very, 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 very easily, from two positions known distance apart, and then using parallax, you can find out the position of the other object. From that,
would you, in that mathematical calculation, Rumpus, would you assume during that calculation, Rumpus, do you assume that you are stood on a spherical surface when you do that calculation?
Does that? Yes, I think that.
So you assume that you're on a sphere when you do this calculation, thus putting the distances at astronomical values, because you assume with no scientific backing, with no proof in 2,000 years, with nothing that adheres to the scientific method to suggest this is true, you assume that you're stood on a sphere. And then you do your little calculation to work out its distance. So this is utterly spurious. You don't know the distance to Mars, you don't know the distance to Venus, and you don't know the distance to the Sun.
We do.
No, you assume them.
Right, we have... all of science says that the Earth is a sphere.
All of science does not say the Earth is a sphere, because all of science does not adhere to anything that has ever provided something that adheres to the scientific method to prove it. You can insert values for the distance to the Sun and assume all sorts of crap, but it doesn't prove with the scientific method that Earth has a curve.
Well, you can see that it's got a curve. Just using the field light measurement yourself, you can...
Yeah, this is
You
bullshit.
can see...
This isn't proof of anything.
Please, don't interrupt me, please. I'm in the mid-sentence.
You can do what he likes.
Go in a minute.
I don't care. You interrupt everyone continually, Rumpus. In 2,000 years of globe understanding, you have got absolutely zero scientific proof of Earth curvature. None.
Every piece of evidence that we've got points to this. I mean, Anthony's...
Points to is not an adherence to the scientific method. Consensus is not an adherence to the scientific method.
Anthony's videos prove the spherical nature of the Earth, of the Isle of Man.
Anthony's videos are not a demonstration of the 2,000-year understanding and its representation using the scientific method. That's a video by a YouTuber.
It's independent of that. Yes, I mean he's not obviously.
So what part of the question don't you understand, Rumpus? Having been asked it in excess of 70 times, why aren't you just here presenting your screen?
I gave you 7 papers. I gave you 7 papers in the last hangout of proof of the spherical nature of the Earth.
7?
Yeah, I gave you 7 links to 7 different papers.
I didn't see 7 links. I got 1 link to 1 paper.
I saw 3. I didn't see 7.
Well, it wasn't very clear. I did put them one after another, so it wasn't the links one after another. There was about 6 there. But yes,
right, do you not know how to count? So we've gone from 7 down to 6. So it seems like really simple numbers are beyond you, Rumpus.
No, they're beyond Anthony.
No, you've just told us, you gave us 7 examples. Anthony said he saw 3. I said I saw 1. And then you said it's 6. So not 7 then, 6 now.
Well, it was 6 or 7. But...
So should we haggle you down to 5? What's this? This just insert number here again, is it? Just make up an arbitrary number, right, Rumpus?
Nathan, you're wandering off. Let's stick to the point, shall we? Let's not wander off.
Have you actually read these papers, Rumpus?
I didn't read the last 2. No.
Then why would you? Give them as an example?
That's
if you
priceless.
haven't actually read them. That's quite silly.
Well, the first few I did, but that was enough. I just thought, well, I'll supplement them.
So you just assumed what was in them and then forwarded them.
Well, there's no. When you can't read them at all, so you're not in any position to comment on this whatsoever.
No, but I'm not going to bring forth a paper as proof of something if I haven't actually read it.
Well, I did.
Rumpus.
The first ones I did, and the latter ones I didn't. There's extra additional proof. There's so much. I mean, I haven't read every single proof that's I've provided for. This is so much.
Okay,
so
no
much
worries.
You haven't read
Tell us. Start with the first one and tell us first of all what its alternative hypothesis is.
Well, I mean, you've somehow bought into this idiot quantum erasers way of doing things, and you don't necessarily need to have an alternative.
This is the scientific method. Observe a phenomenon. So let's start there. Let's start there with your first example of scientific proof that adheres to the scientific method of Earth curvature, and we'll start by you telling us what the phenomenon that is being observed is, please, Rumpus.
Okay, well, I haven't got the papers to hand. I must admit that I had them then, but I don't have them.
Sorry, you've been asked 70 times and you're asserting that you've got it and you don't have it to hand.
But the point is, you've just said earlier...
The point is that we're looking for something very specific, and you've been asked in excess of 70 times, Rumpus. What we're asking for is scientific proof of Earth curvature. That's what we're asking for, and that's what we expect you to present. You haven't presented it. What you have presented does not adhere to the scientific method, at least what you presented to me, I went through. And it doesn't appear to go through the scientific method. If you want to claim that it does...
You reject science, though, which adheres to the scientific method.
Pardon?
You reject science, which adheres to the scientific method. You reject it.
Yeah, you haven't presented it. I've just asked you to tell me what the alternative hypothesis is in the seismic paper that I have gone through. And you have said you don't have it to hand. So, if you do have it to hand, we'll go through what the alternative hypothesis is, what the null hypothesis is, what the independent variable, or to put it another way, the cause. We will go through what the cause is. We will also go through what the dependent variable is, the effect, and then we will go from there, Rumpus. Once you have brought it up and you tell me what it is, how you feel it adheres, then we will test its adherence to the scientific method, my friend. Do you have it to hand?
Nathan, if you think that adopting quantum eraser's position, who are absolutely embarrassed...
No, this is not quantum eraser. This is the scientific method.
Well, he claims you need an independent
This is the scientific method, not quantum eraser. When you say the whole body of science, Rumpus, this is it. This is the whole body of science.
The whole body of science does not require an independent variable to draw scientific conclusions about something. He's completely wrong.
The whole body of science is the scientific method. So, if you want to claim that you have a paper that adheres to the scientific method and demonstrates Earth curve, I would like to go through it with you. And the first thing I will ask you to do is tell me and show me in the paper what the observed phenomenon is. That's the first thing I will ask you to do with any paper that you present to me, Rumpus. I will ask you to show me first what the observed phenomenon is. That's the first question you'll be asked to answer. The second question you will be answering is what is the alternative hypothesis. This isn't anything to do with quantum eraser, although he has detailed it. This is everything to do with science and the scientific method.
Right, but the fact that you've claimed that you need an independent variable means you don't understand the scientific method. You will not find
that is part of the scientific method, yes, Rumpus.
No,
This seems like it's getting dangerously close to me accusing you of not understanding what the scientific method is, Rumpus.
You do not require an independent variable to make scientific conclusions or apply the scientific method. Though
yes, you do. That is part of the scientific method. I'm now going to actually state it. Rumpus doesn't understand what the scientific method is. He is ignorant of science. He claims the whole body of science backs him and his Earth bullshit, but he doesn't actually understand what the scientific method is. That's pretty much obvious now. You don't know what the scientific method is, Rumpus. That much is clear to me. So I don't even really understand why we're having this conversation, because it's clear that you're just going to continually present utter nonsense and assert that it does adhere to the scientific method when it does not. And when I come to test it, you will say, I don't need an independent variable to adhere to the scientific method. Well, and yes, you do.
Okay, well, let me make an example to you, Nathan, why you don't need an independent variable. What quantum eraser is saying by
I don't want you to make an example. That is the scientific method.
No,
you do require an independent variable. What the independent variable is, Rumpus, is the cause. That's what the independent variable is, the cause.
Well, you see, by that conclusion, you see, by not having an independent variable, he's saying, for instance, you can't make he claims, for instance, you can't draw any conclusions from observations of the stars and the cosmology because you can't adjust things. When an independent variable, if you've picked up what this idiot says occasionally, is that you need to be able to control a value. And
I'm not interested in your ad homs. How you doing, Jazzaconda? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Jazz? Got nothing.
Yeah, so when you have an independent variable, you see how the system responds to you changing. So, for instance, in Foucault's pendulum, for instance,
yes, that would be a cause. That would be a cause.
Right, but so you can. So, for instance, he doesn't even understand when an independent variable exists. So, for instance, Foucault's pendulum, which you can use to measure the spinning of the Earth, you can move the pendulum.
Right, I'm bored already. So, Rumpus, let's not get onto the Foucault pendulum, and let's get straight back onto your scientific proof of Earth curvature. Are you going to present this paper so we can go through it and analyse whether or not it adheres to the scientific method? Apparently there's 6 or 7 of them, so it's going to take us quite some time. We're now into Foucault. Was Foucault pendulum one of the things you presented to us, or is this a new point that you're just using to obfuscate?
No, it's illustrate though you don't need an independent variable and how this is idiot. I'm trying to point you out.
I absolutely will require an independent variable, Rumpus, for it to have an adherence to the scientific method. You telling me why I don't need an independent variable isn't going to go over at all, buddy. Sorry.
Well, actually, the Foucault pendulum does have an independent variable.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Foucault pendulum. I am interested in your scientific proof of Earth curvature.
Let's simple one. Pictures of NASA.
Sorry, Rumpus. A picture. Do you think the picture has an independent variable? Does it have an alternative hypothesis? No, it's just an observation. That doesn't adhere to the scientific method at all, Rumpus.
You don't know what the scientific method...
Yeah, it's clear that you don't understand what the scientific method is. And I'll make this really clear, because you're obviously very slow. A picture is not the scientific... Why'd you talk over me? Why are you talking over me when I'm trying to explain this to you? Because you're obviously a bit slow. I don't mind taking my time with you, Rumpus, because you seem to think that a picture is the scientific method. Now, I know I'm going to speak a little bit more slowly with you because you're clearly retarded if you are taking the position that a picture is the scientific method.
But you don't seem to listen.
What doesn't adhere to the scientific method, Erwin?
A picture's not the scientific method, Rumpus.
No, it's not the scientific. It's evidence that you can use in science.
Right. So, I'll ask it again. I don't want you to just give me a single observation and claim it's evidence. I want you to give me scientific proof of Earth curvature. Simple.
Well, if you take a picture of something, that is evidence, and you then say, there you are, there's evidence, I have a picture of something, that would go into a journal. So, for instance, if someone had a picture of a virus, for instance, they could publish a picture saying, we've derived this picture of a virus. We had to use an electron microscope, whatever. Here it is, and that would go into a paper, a new virus, whatever, and this is its structure. That would go into a scientific journal and adhere to the scientific method. The scientific method is not as clear-cut as you suggest.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely as clear-cut as I suggest. That is why I can ask very specific questions about formulated hypothesis and about alternative independent variables. All of these different things I can ask specific questions about when it comes to the scientific method. That is why I can ask very specific questions about it, Rumpus. So the first thing I would ask in regards to your picture is, what is the observed phenomenon? And in terms of what you can actually give me as an answer, the answer's nothing. That you don't have an observed phenomenon, it's just a picture.
That would be accepted.
That is what I'm trying to get across to you very slowly. It's just painstaking. You don't seem to understand. In fact, I've already asserted it on this show. You don't understand what the scientific method is, Rumpus. It's pretty sad. You know, it's pretty pathetic that somebody who claims to understand science doesn't understand science. Sad.
You don't understand the scientific method, Nathan, if you think you need an independent variable for all scientific investigation.
Yeah, I've already made it clear that it's not me that doesn't understand the scientific method, Rumpus. It's you.
If you're rejecting photographs as evidence in science, then...
No, I'm rejecting a photograph as a suitable scientific adherence to the scientific method, therefore scientific proof of Earth curvature. I reject it because it isn't the scientific method, it's just a photograph, Rumpus. It's just an observation. So, if you have something that NASA have done with that photograph that's repeatable, and I can go through its adherence to the scientific method, then that picture might form part of the scientific method.
Jimmy Owen.
Excellent. So you do accept the validity of photographs. Great. So, I mean,
I think we can hear you if that was.
Because you see, Nathan, you said you get bored when I give scientific explanations, so I try and give simple ones like photographs to help you out.
No.
Yeah, you're not helping me out when I ask you a very specific question. I asked for scientific proof of Earth curvature, and that would entail something, anything, that adheres to the scientific method. Now, you're right. A picture may very well form part of the scientific method. May well. But a picture, singular, on its own, is not scientific proof of anything, Rumpus. It's just a picture.
Yes, but it's a verifiable picture, though, Nathan.
Yeah.
Even
a verifiable picture is not adherence to the scientific method. It's just a repeated observation. Observations are not the scientific method. The scientific method is the scientific method.
As part of the scientific method, you have to make an observation. And an observation...
You have to observe a phenomenon. So, in the case of your pictures from space, what phenomenon are they observing?
The
Earth from space. And let me guess. What's the alternative hypothesis? The Earth is flat.
So that is the phenomenon.
What's the alternative hypothesis? Are you deaf, man?
That is the phenomenon you're observing.
What's the alternative hypothesis?
that you're not looking at a sphere and you're looking at something else, but you're not looking at it. Obviously, from the picture, you can see it is a sphere.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right, well, I mean, it's amazing.
You are a joke. You know that. You're an absolute disgrace. You're an embarrassment to the scientific community if you're part of it. If you are part of the scientific community, Rumpus, you're an embarrassment to it.
You wouldn't know whether someone was an embarrassment scientifically because you're
you are right now proving yourself an embarrassment.
You constantly flip-flop on everything and all your arguments.
Total embarrassment.
You don't even have the soul to admit it when you're wrong.
Flip-flopped on, Owen?
Because you're flip-flop within a minute.
You wouldn't know.
Arrogant twat.
You can't tell the difference between fact and fiction.
You're an arrogant twat and you're a liar in plain sight.
No swearing, please.
And you're without shame.
Erwin, you're such an idiot. You don't know the difference between fact and fiction, truth and what's true and false. You don't even know how a triangle works. You're in no position.
You're giving up on scientific proof for me then, Rumpus? You've given up? You said you cited 6 papers and now you're on to attacking with ad hominems, I might add. What's going on? Do you not have any scientific proof of Earth curvature, my friend?
Sorry, is that to me? Sorry, I missed that. I mean, Nathan, I would have thought you'd be getting into...
You seem to stutter really badly every time I ask this question. Funny though it is for my audience, it seems pretty sad that you're not able to do this for me, Rumpus.
Well,
2,000 years.
I provided you with 6 papers that went into
let's go through
detailed seismic analysis of the Earth.
That's the one I got. Wicked. Bring it up. Let's go through it. And I'll get you to write them down. So we'll start by what's the observed phenomenon. We'll write that down. We'll get it. Then we'll go on to, as soon as we've established what their observed phenomenon is, we will then establish what their alternative hypothesis is. Because from what I could establish, they didn't have one. Silence. Yeah. It didn't have an alternative hypothesis, Rumpus. So, it failed to adhere to the scientific method because it had no alternative hypothesis. So, it totally failed. It also didn't have a null hypothesis. So, Rumpus, that paper wasn't an adherence to the scientific method. It seems like you don't...
You don't understand science, Nathan, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I do understand science. It seems like you don't understand because I asked for something very specific. Scientific proof of Earth curvature, and you provided me with a paper that had no alternative hypothesis.
I don't think that's absolutely necessary to adhere.
Oh, I see. So again, Rumpus demonstrates his ignorance.
Okay, Nathan, you cite it. Okay, Nathan, you
So Rumpus again demonstrates his ignorance of the scientific method, and is now claiming there is no necessity for an alternative hypothesis. You are an embarrassment, Rumpus.
Go on, Nathan, cite your evidence to support that's part of the scientific method.
Rumpus, you're an embarrassment.
Go on. No, you can't, can you? You can't do it.
I know what the scientific method is.
No, you don't.
And I know what you presented.
No, you don't.
And it had zero alternative hypothesis. It didn't have one. It did not adhere to the scientific method, Rumpus. It's a shame. You tried. You failed. So what else have you got? That was a paper that I went through. Apparently there are 2 others that Anthony went through. So if you've got 2 more, let's go through those. So far, mate, not so good.
You don't need an alternative hypothesis.
Yeah, you do need an alternative hypothesis. That's why you're an embarrassment. Anybody who is in the scientific community now, who is listening to you say these words, should feel ashamed that you are even saying these words. You're a disgrace. You're an embarrassment, and you don't actually understand what the scientific method is.
Are you reluctant to prove what you just said? Come on, prove it. You've just made an assertion. Back it up.
Yeah. You tell me what I'm going to do when you've had 2,000 years of globe understanding, and there isn't a shred, not an iota, not a sausage, no scientific proof of Earth curvature. The best Rumpus has got is Soundly. That was his go-to when he was first asked this. Go and look at Soundly. That was the best he could offer. Absolutely pathetic.
Deflect.
Deflect. No, I'm not deflecting anything.
You dodge when you get into a corner. You dodge. I always try to be as honest as I can.
I've asked you in excess probably now of 80 times to provide scientific proof of Earth curvature. You haven't done it. You failed, Rumpus. You failed. You know, that's why I'm calling you an embarrassment, because you're now claiming that you can exclude various sections of the scientific method because they're not important.
Go on, Nathan. Your point. Stop deflecting. Take the deflection shields down now. Actually do something honest here. Deflection shields to lift them, I think we want.
You're retreating into Star Trek fantasy, dude.
I know.
Well,
No, it's Star Wars, isn't it?
No,
Isn't it Star Wars?
no, that Star Trek is
Deflective.
deflector shields, not deflection shields.
Who
But
cares?
going back to the refraction thing you were talking about earlier, the fact that the sun is at a distance of the stars is absolutely
So
irrelevant.
literally, you've told me to stop deflecting, and now you've
Distance
literally
to the
moved
stars.
straight
Here
off
you go
topic.
again. You don't know the
I like
distance to the
that concrete
stars.
subject.
Straight off
know it.
topic. Straight onto a
Scientific method is
different
something
subject.
Turn it
Take those
You
deflection
don't know the
shields
distance from the
down,
stars.
Rumpus.
You only
Take
know
the
angular
deflection shields down.
relations.
You're talking about
Get those deflection shields down, Rumpus. Quick.
I'm not.
I'm not deflecting.
Subject.
I'm just stuttering because I'm in an awkward
I
position.
stutter. You've got a
I
stuttering
actually
brain.
have a speech impediment.
You've got a
Don't
stuttering
be so
brain, and I
rude to me.
don't have a stutter. Your brain is a stuttering entity. Why don't we talk about
This is
some concrete
great.
issues?
I
rather
love
than
having you
waffling
on,
about
Rumpus. You're brilliant.
scientific methods? Because I think you're a
I
Because
agree.
you keep on
Review part
bringing
of
in
the
the same
scientific
thing
method.
all
Oh,
the
what
time.
did I hear? Did I hear
What
peer
you stuck-
reviewed?
What does
Oh,
measure?
right.
What does
Whoever
matter?
said the word peer reviewed, that would be consensus opinion, as opposed to an adherence to the scientific method. Peer review is not the scientific method. Peer review does not qualify a paper as being scientific proof. That just means it's been peer reviewed. Your mates had a look at it and gone, looks alright to me. That seems fine.
Peer review is an important part of the scientific process. I agree with that.
Scientific
Absolutely.
process or the scientific method?
I think one could say it was part of both.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Well, the scientific method is what you do. The peer review is a process.
I
that
don't do it.
happens-
I'm not a scientist.
Stop.
What I've specifically asked for, Rumpus, is quite clear. I have asked for scientific proof of Earth curvature. The reason I have asked for it is simple. We have had, according to you guys, 2,000 years of globe understanding. And in that time, you have had science as a consensus in agreement that you live on a sphere. Therefore, it should be really easy to find something that has adhered to the scientific method and does prove that we live
Well,
on
the
a
problem
sphere.
is you don't. You
Unfortunately,
have a particular idea about what's a scientific
you
method.
have no proof of your spinning ball religion. None.
We have.
And Rumpus, the scientific
pictures.
method has been around for, well, since the Renaissance, pretty much. That's when it's even officially invented, if that was the date, because I believe it's probably existed for a much longer time. So, yeah, you had quite some time.
Can I give the link to
2,000 years.
Philip?
2,000 years of globe understanding, and he's asking us to go to the beach with the theodolite.
Well, the trouble is you don't accept. You don't accept.
You
science.
You tend to stutter really badly. Yeah, I'll say it again. Let's see how badly we can get Rumpus stuttering. Brilliant. So, Rumpus, I'm not asking for you to tell me to do an experiment going forward. I am explaining to the audience and you that there's been about 2,000 years, according to you guys, of globe understanding, and you've had the entire body of science behind that understanding. Therefore, scientific proof to date, easily referenced, should be in abundance. But you've got nothing. You've got no proof of your spinning ball religion. You've just got
No
faith.
nutters believe in a non-spherical Earth, but the exact shape. I mean, the geodetic surveys, for instance, are scientific in nature. The WG84 model tries to model the.
Sorry, you're saying that WGS84 is scientific proof of Earth curvature? Wow, this gets better. I love it. I love it, Rumpus. You tell me now, right? What is the observed phenomenon in the WGS84?
Has Chris Monk abandoned his claim that flat?
Did you not hear the question? Were you just talking? What's the observed phenomenon in the WGS84?
Well, no, it's attempts to model it against what we know.
Oh, it's
from the
a
Earth.
model. That's a shame. Models aren't the scientific method, Rumpus. They're just models. bit like photos aren't the scientific method, they're just photos. Models
wouldn't
aren't the
use
scientific
photos for that,
method.
Nathan, no.
So the
They wouldn't use
WGS84
Models
is not scientific proof
Models
of
can
Earth
be used
curvature
to
now,
make
is it?
predictions,
It's
Nathan.
just a model.
Well, you to verify. I mean, I imagine
model
lots
that
of
works.
scientific papers trying to match the WGS84
just a
model
model
against
that
the real
makes-
Earth.
Models of the
That's
heavens
prediction.
also can be used to make prediction. Doesn't prove the shape of the Earth either.
Correct. It's not
But
scientific
you
proof
don't
of
know
Earth
the
curvature
distance,
now,
you
is it,
don't know
Rumpus?
the
It's just
size,
a
you just
model.
got the angles.
Let's
Just
measure
a
it.
model.
Useful.
Why don't let's measure it?
What, the model?
Let's measure the distance to Polaris.
Why?
How do you do that? My God!
Well, let's measure it on a flat Earth and tell me how far away it is.
Sorry,
Very simple.
you seem to be obfuscating my point
How?
again.
How do you
Ruhif.
do it? You just know the angular differences.
No,
That's it.
Hold on, Arwin.
Oh,
I'm not
no.
interested,
When
Ruhif, in
Rumpus
going
said you had no
forward.
idea about
Hold on,
trigonometry, he
Ruhif.
was correct.
You've just done exactly what I've said. So I've said, you guys, all you can do is suggest that we do things going forward. So do you have scientific proof of Earth curvature that's based on this actual observation? Do you have that?
I missed the question.
No, I
Cut
missed
out a
the
bit.
question.
Do you have scientific proof of Earth curvature based on what you're about to assert using Polaris? Something that has adhered to the scientific method.
I think your strict definition is far too narrow.
Why is it that every time I ask whether or not something has adhered to the scientific method, I get criticised for my adherence to the scientific method?
You
The scientific
don't know
method
what
is the
it's
scientific
far too
method.
narrow.
Wanting to adhere to it isn't something that I have control over. It just is the scientific
No,
method.
it is what you think the
You either
scientific
do,
method is.
It is
you either
science,
do
definitely.
adhere to it, or you don't adhere to it. That's it.
You don't know what it is.
No, you
You're
don't
making-
know what it is, Rumpus, because if you knew what it was, you wouldn't have presented a paper that had no alternative hypothesis. You wouldn't do that if you understood what the scientific method was. You have
don't
done
understand
that,
what's
and that demonstrates to me that you don't understand what the
No,
scientific
you-
method is. Otherwise,
It's
you
not
wouldn't have
required, it's not
presented that
essential, it's
seismology
preferable,
paper
but it's
now,
not
would you?
essential.
If you understood
not
it,
essential.
you'd have gone through it. Maybe you didn't even read it. You just assumed that it was correct, right?
It does not.
What I is, what I is.
It
Why
is
can't you
not
string a
required-
single sentence together without stuttering? Why have you presented it, Rumpus?
that paper up because it is use a seismic survey, seismic analysis.
I know
to
what
show
it
that the
does.
Earth's nature is-
Why have you presented it when it doesn't adhere to the scientific method?
It was being peer reviewed, Nathan, by people. who-
Why have you presented it when it does not adhere to the
It
scientific
does,
method?
Nathan.
I'll say it again, because he's deaf. Peer review is not the scientific method, Rumpus. Peer reviewing something doesn't mean it suddenly adheres to the scientific method. Do you understand that, man? Do you get it? Is it sinking in? Telling me why have you presented it? Well, because it was peer reviewed. I don't care. It hasn't
by
adhered
scientists who've adhered
to the
to
scientific method. I'm asking, when I've specifically asked you to provide a paper or a proof that does adhere to the scientific method, specifically that it adheres to the scientific method, why is it that you have presented me something that does not adhere to the scientific method with a justification of peer review? I'll tell you why. Because you don't understand what the scientific method is. If you did, you would have gone away and found something that adhered to it. You can't, because there isn't anything. There is nothing that you can go and get me, Rumpus, that will adhere to the scientific method and prove that we live on a ball. Because you don't have scientific proof of your spinning ball earth religion. You don't have it. That's why you haven't given it.
You do. There's a body of science.
The body of science.
Body of science says we.
Sounds like a guy in church saying the body of Christ. That's what you sound like. You're just saying it like it has more meaning because you say it and assert it with authority. You know, you're not in church, Rumpus. You're not here to eulogise about the body of science. The body of science is one thing, the scientific method.
And who do you think employs the scientific method? Which section of society or of the world?
Anybody can apply the scientific method. Absolutely anybody. However, I would like to think that the people predominantly being paid to engage in that activity would also adhere to it. Specifically when providing us with scientific proof of Earth curvature, something you believe exists.
Can I ask a question?
For the scientific method. Do you understand they're checked
What?
under peer review?
Hey,
You do
Rumpus,
understand that?
So I'll say it again. Rumpus is deaf, or stupid, or slow. It's okay. Peer review isn't the scientific method. Just
That's
because you have
correct.
something
Well
peer
done.
reviewed does not mean it suddenly adheres to the scientific method.
Well, it means it's checked for the scientific method.
No,
The
it does
other-
not.
Yes, it
Checking
does,
something
because
does
other
not suddenly
scientists
mean
then
that you
check
give it an
the
alternative
scientific method
hypothesis
adhered to.
when it does not have one, Rumpus.
It's the
If you
ultimate
have
check.
no alternative hypothesis, no amount of peer review will suddenly inject an alternative hypothesis into a theory that does not have one. So peer review is not the scientific method. It never will be, and it will never cover up a lack of adherence to the scientific method. Simply showing it to other people and having them agree with you is a consensus opinion.
Science, but that's happened. So that
It's not
invalidates your
science.
argument completely.
That's consensus, not science. Science is
I
the
can hear
scientific method.
Thanks, Wayne.
I missed your
So,
point.
what scientific method should we use to determine a flat Earth?
The scientific method.
In which
Yeah,
case-
what is it? Detail.
Propose an experiment.
What do you
First
propose?
observe a phenomenon. That's the first
Phenomenon.
thing you need to do.
Childbirth is a phenomenon.
What is, sorry?
No, so I'm just joking.
Yeah, something that can actually prove has a physical size or a distance somewhere. Use that to prove, the shape
Okay,
of the
employ
Earth.
the scientific method and a theodolite measurement of the Isle of Man. Sorted. You do it.
Sorry, I keep saying this. We have had 2,000 years of globe understanding. And why on earth is it when we ask you to provide scientific proof, you tell us to go to the beach with a theodolite? Is it the case that this is still not proven and we need to go and prove it to ourselves after 2,000 years of understanding? Is that really the case?
No, we're asking to prove flat Earth.
You deny science. There's no point in science proving it to you.
We
because
know
you
I
it's
won't
do
be-
not deny science. I deny pseudoscience. I do not deny science. Please, can you stop accusing me of this? Pseudoscience is what I would deny.
You are a science denier.
I am a
body of science.
pseudoscience denier. You, on the other hand, Rumpus, are a science denier because you deny the scientific method and claim that an alternative hypothesis isn't needed because you
don't
are a
think that-
science denier. You are a pseudoscience believer. That is what you are. I am not a science denier. The body of science is the scientific method. You would rather take the nonsense musings of pseudoscientists.
You've no idea the difference between science and pseudoscience because you reject science.
Pseudoscience
reject-
is anything that does not adhere to the scientific method. Anything beyond that is pseudoscience.
And science has peer reviews to make sure that other scientists do
How
adhere
many
to
times have I got to
scientific
say that peer review does not mean that suddenly a paper that doesn't adhere to the scientific method adheres to it? It's
But
meaningless.
peer review will expose that, Nathan. That's the whole point of peer review.
Rumpus.
Makes it
So,
expose
having
the-
had a
pissing
peer
on your feet,
review,
mate. You're pissing in
did
the
the
wind.
peer review for the paper about seismic activity, did the peer review actually address the fact that it had no alternative hypothesis?
but that's because you've got a problem with the your claim that the scientific method has to have an alternative hypothesis, and it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
doesn't.
That is what the scientific method requires. Absolutely. It would require an alternative hypothesis. It would also require a null hypothesis. It would also require an independent variable, i.e. the cause. That is what is required. That is absolutely what is the scientific method, Rumpus.
No, it isn't, Nathan.
Yeah, it is. That's the scientific method. That is what is required. You are just unable to provide anything that adheres to it and would rather tell me that you don't require an alternative hypothesis.
Ruhif has published or tried to publish a scientific paper, so he should be familiar with the scientific process, and he should be able to tell us whether or not a null hypothesis is a
scientific
requirement
process.
for a paper.
Scientific process, Rumpus. You can't even say the words correctly.
I
The
can, I know.
scientific method.
Yes, indeed, but the scientific process.
So the scientific process is something you're going to now talk about that's not the scientific method, right?
Let's ask Ruhif if he's actually experienced
No,
this. Why
I'm
not-
asking
let's
you.
ask him whether
Are
or not
you about to
he
talk
has
about
to
the
provide-
scientific process? because I'm not interested in what you define as the scientific process.
We're
I'm
not
only
interested
interested
in what you define,
in
what
what
you think of a
science
quantum eraser.
has already set down as its parameters. Those
You're
parameters
picking up
have a
from
title.
quantum eraser
That
and you're wrong.
title is the scientific method. That is the title of science. So if you're going to now claim that there's something called the scientific process, and it revolves around peer review and people tapping each other on the back and not actually adhering to the scientific method, I'm not interested.
You don't know what it is, Nathan. You don't know. You're
Why do you
guessing.
keep telling me that I don't know? You claim to have provided scientific proof of Earth curvature in this seismic paper, and you haven't. It has no alternative hypothesis. If it had one, we'd be moving on to the next step of the scientific process. It doesn't have one.
Papers
Neither does
published
Flat
in
Earth.
journals.
Sorry, neither does Flat Earth. That's correct. So maybe Ruhif's about to ask a YouTuber who's been doing it for about 2 or 3 years for his scientific proof. Even though in 2,000 years of globe understanding and 2,000 years of having paid scientists and 2,000 years of people basically believing that they live on a sphere, there's no scientific proof of Earth curvature from any of these scientists. But yeah, Ruhif is now going to ask me, a YouTuber, to provide him with scientific proof. Right, Ruhif? Is that what you're about to ask me to do? Provide you with scientific proof as a YouTuber?
We ask you to do this because you reject
Why are you
all the
asking me?
evidence
I'm not a
put forward to you.
scientist. Why aren't you going and asking the scientists for their proof of Earth curvature, which is what I've asked for?
I don't need to. I can verify it for myself.
Yeah, why in 2,000 years is it necessary to go out and perform a test? Why haven't you
go and ask the scientists for proof of flat Earth?
Yeah, because science isn't on our side. I've just explained this. Scientists assume that they're on a globe. So that's where science lies. You haven't got a scientist in existence, to my knowledge, that's saying the Earth is flat. Certainly not in recent history. No scientists are coming forward and saying, here's the science for how a flat Earth works. So we don't have any science for this. And the people you're asking it for, are YouTubers, not scientists. I'm not a scientist. But you're asking me to provide you scientific proof. No, I'm saying you've had 2,000 years to get it. You've had 2,000 years to get it.
Well, you seem to know exactly what scientific method is.
Where's your 2,000 years worth of scientific proof of Earth curve, if that's what the scientific understanding currently is?
We have given it
Where
to
is
you.
your 3 years of flat Earth curve?
What, my YouTuber? I've got it. It's documented on my YouTube account.
Where is it?
Yeah, I've got nearly 1,000 videos.
But that's not a method.
No, I didn't say I'd got a scientific method. I've just said I'm not a scientist. I'm a YouTuber. So you're asking me what I've got. Now, as a YouTuber, what I've got is YouTube videos. That's what I can produce. I'm a YouTuber, right? But we've also got these other people called scientists. And their job is to produce scientific proof. So we've had 2,000 years of globe understanding. Not 3 years of videography, my friend, which is what you're asking me to give you scientific proof for. I mean, you wouldn't go to your butcher and ask him to give you a boat now, would you? You'd say, I make sausages here, I don't produce boats. I make videos here, mate. I make videos here, I don't produce scientific proof. That would be scientists. And I'm saying in 2,000 years, why is it that scientists haven't got scientific proof of Earth
you've said it a million times.
Which is where the science currently lies.
You've got photographic evidence of a flat Earth, is that correct?
Yeah.
Or is that wrong?
That's correct.
Oh, that's excellent. Come on,
We got photographic observations that contradict the claims made by globe believers of what the curvature is.
Hey, come on.
Let's have it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. That's quite eloquently put, Owen.
Hey, Peanuts.
What about the photos that we have that conflict with your flat Earth photos?
Can you hear us, Peanuts?
Hold on. We don't have any. I suspect his flat Earth photos confirm a spherical. Don't call them. They don't prove flat Earth.
I'm just for sake of argument.
That's not what I said. I'm not talking about proving flat Earth. Or just disproving the claimed curvature.
Okay, where are these photographs?
Yeah, and what about the curvature photos we have disproving a flat Earth?
We can very easily explain how it works, especially with moving footage, vertical moving footage.
Where? Give us this footage. Lovely.
Oh, this footage that Soundly took some time ago and then shoved it into the show was amazing. You can literally see how the apparent curvature migrated as the camera was transporting vertically
Yes,
was
it proved the
pretty
spherical
amazing.
Earth. It proved the spherical Earth. Absolutely,
No,
100%.
it proved how the apparent curvature migrated.
What
It
does that mean?
changed its position.
Yeah, the horizon
it's
moved
not an
away as it went up
entire
high. Yes,
sphere
yes.
and you just
Hey, Philip.
go away from the sphere.
Hi.
No, the part of the visual that
Oh,
seemed to be
geez, I need to
curved
turn on-
migrated.
Oh, am I hearing? Oh, I'm actually hearing people. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you on Skype or Hangouts?
Hangouts.
Okay. I think
So
we're on
anyway,
Skype.
I want one remark. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he peer-reviewed the Earth, you know?
Pair.
So, Owen, you don't understand that video by
Fair.
Soundly absolutely 100% proved the spherical Earth. And as you go up higher, the
No, it doesn't.
horizon
It's not
moves
scientific
away.
proof.
That's what you're talking
No,
about
it
by
isn't. It's
the
just an
apparent horizon.
observation.
By the way, there's no such thing as an apparent horizon.
No,
No such
Rumpus,
thing.
that does not scientifically prove the Earth is a curve. It's just an observation.
I would agree. I would actually, Nathan. I would actually, as
Yeah, I
a
agree with
scientific
that.
proof, I would probably agree with you. But it is very solid evidence that I think is worth we could accept as proof. But it's not. I would probably agree with
I
you.
could,
It's not
but I'm not
scientific
going
proof.
to because it's not scientific proof. So, not interested.
But okay,
Hey,
in case,
Rumpus,
Nathan, then you want to just have
There's
discussion
no
about
scientific
scientific
proof of flat
papers.
Earth.
We will
Yeah,
have no
not interested,
discussion. If you
Rumpus.
are
3
prepared
years.
to consider
Not
papers,
interested.
but we are discussing evidence that comes before us, and that is
No,
very
no,
solid.
you
evidence
want to
of a
discuss
spherical Earth.
evidence that we could gather going forward. I want you to provide what 2,000 years worth of globe understanding has provided in terms of proof, scientific
I can
proof
just point you
of
to
Earth
scientific
curve.
body
Yeah,
science-
we've
body
we've
science.
given
Few
you so
sticks in the
much,
ground, mate.
Nathan.
No, you haven't. You haven't given me a
Exactly.
single thing that is scientific proof of Earth curve. Not one thing.
I gave you lots of papers.
We've
Yeah,
given
we've
you-
gone through them. So I went through them earlier. So the paper specifically that I went through had no alternative hypothesis.
That is not requirement. That's not a requirement.
Yeah, it is. It's a requirement
Your
of the scientific method.
understanding of the scientific method is incredibly narrow, Nathan. Incredibly narrow.
Right. This paper didn't adhere to it. That's the end of that particular conversation in that regard.
Didn't adhere to your particular
No,
understanding of
scientific
it.
method is a method. It's nothing to do with me or my decisions. It's nothing to do with Rumpus and his exclusions of parts of it. It's just the scientific method.
No, you don't understand what the scientific method is.
Yeah, you don't, or you would have
I agree.
provided something by now.
Well, no, you reject
Question.
things that do adhere to the
Yeah,
scientific
because
method.
you
just got
keep saying that they're peer reviewed. Oh, well, this paper's been peer reviewed, so you must accept it because it's gone through other people who have accepted what's in the paper. And that would cover any problems with its lack of adherence to the scientific methods. And I'm saying,
So we've
no.
invalidated one point. The claim that you require an independent variable is wrong. So therefore, you've got that wrong. So therefore, you don't understand the scientific method. So we can ignore all of your comments about the scientific method because we've just shown that you don't understand it. So
No,
end
you haven't
story.
shown that at all, Rumpus. You've shown that
You
you've
do not
provided
require an
papers that
independent-
don't adhere to it. That's all you've shown. You've shown a paper to me, which I went through, and it had no alternative hypothesis. You're saying we don't
where
need
you-
Where
one.
did you get your information from,
Nathan,
Nathan?
what
You're
was
saying
the
we don't need
actual
one.
hypothesis
You
of the paper?
About what? Hang on a sec. I'd like to know where he got his information from precisely about
Quantum
what a
eraser.
scientific method is.
I went through it with Quantum Eraser. I did it live for an audience.
Yeah, okay. What's quantum
paper?
eraser's qualifications
He has
to
none.
stipulate what they are?
Nobody needs any
Well, what is his
qualifications to
source?
adhere to the
What's his
scientific
source?
method.
Hang
You
on.
don't need qualifications,
Yeah.
and I'm not interested in them. I don't care if you have
Well,
qualifications.
how does
Couldn't care
he
less.
know what a? Okay, then how does he know what a scientific method is? What's his experience with it?
Just looked at it
to
and
tell
studied
you?
it. Just studied it.
Or his source.
Just went
Pardon?
and looked at it. You can look it up online. Type in the words scientific and method next to each other.
I did that.
Rumpus, what paper
Yeah,
did
so-
you
so did I.
send them?
Good for you.
Peer review came up in it.
Oh, really?
I sent you a
Google?
link.
And
Yeah, I sent you a
and the
link.
exact phrase, does this mean all scientists follow exactly this process? No.
So
Some
I
areas of
realise that
science
they
may
don't
be
follow
more
that
easily
process,
tested
Rube.
than
If that's
others.
the problem, that's
That's
the
what I'm-
problem.
no,
And
that's-
you're saying, hey, man, these guys don't follow it. So it's all cool, man. It's like, yeah, man, there's speed limits. But does anybody follow them? Nah. So really, there's no speed limits. No, it doesn't really work like that.
Let's keep
What?
reading then, shall we? In fact, there are probably as many versions of the scientific method as there are scientists.
Not quite as bad as that, I think.
No, I agree. But your like formulaic understanding of it, way too narrow.
Yeah, according to you.
Hey,
Because it
hey,
doesn't fit what you need
Rumpus,
in terms
this
of
is
what you can
according to you as
provide.
well.
I realise
Like, how
why
do we
you're
decide
calling
who's
my
got the-
interpretation of the
2000
scientific method narrow, because you cannot adhere to it and prove Earth curvature. So therefore,
Someone's trying to ask
my
me a
definition's just too narrow, right? Because I don't accept peer review and consensus
Whoa.
opinion and numbers that are injected into the
Well,
formulas.
among other things, not just those two, not just those two.
All right, so it's my fault then. Sorry, guys.
No.
Scientific method's
No,
just
that's
too
not your-
stringent because
that's
Nathan
not your
Oakley's
fault,
made it
Nathan.
so.
No, Nathan, you misunderstand. It's not your fault, mate.
Yeah, I know
You
it's not my fault. I realise that this isn't my fault, that you guys have got absolutely no scientific proof of Earth curvature. That definitely is not my fault.
It's because
I'm
the
not saying
scientific
it's your
proof is
fault.
ancient. That's why.
The scientific
take it
proof is
personally.
ancient, did you say?
Yes, it's
Oh,
very,
brilliant.
very old.
So let's have a look at it. Brilliant. Bring up this ancient
They put
proof
2 sticks
and
in the ground.
we'll go through it with you, Philip.
Sticks in the ground, man.
We'll go through it with
Sticks
you,
in the
Philip.
ground.
Let's
They put,
bring it
they
up.
put
Let's
two,
see it.
2 sticks in the ground.
Does anyone mind if I chime in here just for a minute? I've got to go in 5. Got shit to do.
There you go. Yeah.
Stuff to do.
Okay, got a few more minutes left, actually, but yeah, good to have you, Was. No, it's not Was, is it? It's Jazzaconda.
I was.
Oh,
Jessica's not Aussie.
You g'day, Nathan.
It's all the Aussies, my apologies. I've got them all confused.
Jazz, you're
3
from
Aussies in
New
here.
Zealand, aren't you?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Please
man.
don't
Jazz?
say that's the case. Oh,
You're
I'm
a
sorry.
Kiwi,
I'm
aren't
so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not racist.
Come on, Nathan. Just like calling you a Frenchman.
So sorry, Jazzaconda's a Kiwi. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
sure.
Can I just say how hilarious it is that now Nathan is claiming that the horizon that you see in pictures is now no longer where you see it is, and his claim it's therefore if I see it, he's now abandoned. I find it absolutely hilarious. He's abandoned this mantra. He's now denying the evidence of his eyes when he looks at the Isle of Man pictures and sees the horizon, saying it's not really there. I'm going to imagine the horizon is somewhere else, just off the top
No,
of my
that's
head.
the apparent
thing is
horizon and the
absolutely
actual
hilarious.
horizon, Rumpus.
There's no such
Come
thing as an
on.
apparent horizon there when you don't know what you're talking about.
The
There is
apparent
an apparent
horizon
horizon.
is
This
what
mantra.
you will get to see due to the refraction zone when that starts.
There's no
The
such thing as
actual
a
horizon
You
is
don't know what a refraction zone is.
at eye height.
You
Yeah,
don't know
I
where your
do know
trousers
what
are,
refraction
Owen.
is. We've been working that out for some time now.
You couldn't
Hey
work
guys,
anything out.
there's a problem with the horizon. If you're standing on the beach looking out towards the horizon, you've got 3 distinct lines. You've got the land you're standing on. You can look at that as a line going out from you. Then you've got the clouds. You can look at that as a line going out from you. And then you've got the sun above the clouds. So you've got 3 lines at 3 different levels. Now, does the sun ever go below the cloud line?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Why,
does.
Owen? Why?
So we're on a flat.
Because
hang on a moment.
it
We're on a
just
we're on a
moves at
flat
the edge of
Earth.
vision, and if there's clouds in front of it, then there's clouds in front of it.
But hang on. That doesn't make sense if you think about it in three dimensions.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about it. You can
When we
prove
say you have
that
no
they
idea
are
about
three-dimensional
trigonometry-
objects. It's part of the globe of the heavens.
So you're
It's at the
you're
edge of
saying that the
vision,
sun-
and it will move into the Earth even. So, yeah, but
What?
that's a whole nother
You're saying the
What are
sun
you
will
talking
physically.
about?
Fairies are fairy stores. Do you believe in fairies, Erwin? Because this is the same level. Do you believe in fairies? I've got to know this because
Rumpus,
it's same level.
Rumpus.
Yeah, sorry, what? You trying to say something? What? Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah.
No, you're
I
right.
don't know whether we're live, by the way.
Owen, Owen. So you're saying there's a cloud line and there's a sun, thousands of kilometers.
No.
This is a flat Earth model. This is a flat Earth
Yeah,
model.
sorry.
I'm speaking
Yeah, no,
from.
a flat
Are
Earth
we,
model. It's not my flat
we
Earth
still
model.
live? Are we still live, or is Nathan?
Yeah, we're still live.
I believe we are.
A couple of minutes left.
Yeah, still, I think.
Okay,
So
sorry.
the clouds sit at, I don't know, say a few kilometers, and then the sun's thousands of kilometers above that.
No.
And you're going to tell me
No, it's
that the
not.
sun goes below the clouds?
No. You're again assuming that the sun is in any physical, literal position. It's not.
Oh, so
Is it a fairy floating in the sky, Erwin? Is that
No,
what it is?
it's
A
an
little
optical
fairy?
phenomenon. It's holographic in
Oh,
nature.
it's
It
holographic.
is not in
You
any
know- you just
specific
said that. What
location,
basis
only
have
an
you got for
apparent
that?
location.
Erwin, give me a
Okay,
single
Owen.
piece of evidence to support that
Rumpus.
position.
Rumpus, 1 second, please.
Okay, Karen.
Okay, Arwen, that's your idea of a flat Earth, right? What are the other? Does Nathan and Riley agree with
It has nothing to
you?
do with the shape of the Earth. It only has to do with the nature of the
sun.
heavens.
Yeah. Okay. So that's your idea of it. Does Nathan and Anthony agree with you?
Nope. Well, I don't
No?
know. I
So-
don't think Nathan has any standing point, and Anthony loves to adhere back to the circle-centric flat Earth concept and the more
Okay, so
literal
then what's
approach
the-
of the heavens.
So then, what's their explanation to my question?
What's your question?
as
I don't
opposed to
know.
yours?
I don't know what they're.
Well, what maybe they can speak for themselves.
I don't know if
oh,
Anthony's
if
still
they
here.
were here, I don't think.
Is
Anthony's
Nathan
here,
gone?
And,
I'm
as
still
I
here,
said,
but I don't know if Anthony's still here.
I don't
or
know
not.
if Nathan has any standpoint in this. Do you, Nathan?
I'm just curious how that can work, because you often see the sun lighting the underneath of the clouds, particularly at sunset.
Yeah, I've got a picture of that.
So I'm just trying to work out
Nathan
how.
has-
I'm trying to picture it. I can't picture it. I was just hoping, one of you guys could help me out.
Well, on the
How
other
can you
hand,
guys-
Sides
Hold on,
you
let's-
then
let's
have
just-
to
Hold on.
approach-
We've only got a couple of minutes, so if Rumpus has got that
Owen,
picture, I
you
want to
need to go
present
and
it
get the
before we round
lemonade
out.
while Nathan
Okay,
explains
I'll show
it.
a picture of this.
Let's
Yeah,
just have a
I'll
look
show
at
a
it.
picture.
I don't know what it looks like, so if Rumpus can put a
Oh.
picture up, I'll put it up on screen.
Yeah.
I may not have time to
Okay.
give you an answer. We've got
Oh,
a
you
couple
had
of
it on
minutes.
screen before, Nathan, when you're doing those
I've got it here.
long distance photography photographs
Bear with me. Rumpus is on the case.
with
Hold on.
Rohirf earlier
Give me a moment,
earlier in tonight's show.
Can you
We
see that?
had it on the
continue
screen
after the
before.
hangout's
yet.
gone,
Can you
by the
see
way.
that?
Nope.
Sure. Can you not see that?
Nope.
Yeah, I can.
I can see it on Skype.
On
I don't
Skype,
think
yeah.
On Skype, yes. Right. So it's on. Perhaps it's not going through to Nathan then.
No, all I've got is your icons.
I see something now.
Is it not sharing that? But you can see it on Skype.
I can see it on Skype.
Ah.
I don't know why I can't see it.
Nathan, you actually had a picture of it earlier in the hangout. One of you guys did.
You can't. Oh. It's a
okay.
fantastic picture. It just shows how the clouds are illuminated from above. And the shadow of a mountain is actually
Maybe if you can-
on the cloud. So the only way that
Yeah,
can
well,
happen.
that actually goes
The
further.
apparent sun disk has
to what I'm
apparently
asking.
moved underneath the cloud line. It's
It's
very
moved underneath the
fascinating.
horizon. It's gone
Okay.
It's
below.
very
So-
impossible
I know,
to
and I'm
Again,
still
on
hold
the
on,
globe.
hold on.
Owen,
You're all
Owen,
talking at once. Hold on,
take
hold on,
turns,
hold on.
Owen,
You're
take
all
turns.
talking at
Take
once.
turns, Owen, I'm
Hold
still
on.
speaking.
Rumpus.
So, right, so
Rumpus.
hold on, let me finish. So the only way that shadow I'm showing here of the mountain on the underside of the clouds can happen is if the sun is below the mountain. It's the only geometrical way. Erwin obviously won't understand this because he doesn't understand how triangles work. But for most normal people, you can understand that the only
Well, if you
way
can
to
give
get a
him-
shadow of mountain on the
You've heard that
underside
twice
of the
now,
clouds
Rumpus.
is
If you can
the
just let
sun
him...
is below.
Rumpus. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
it twice. Great. Now, maybe if Owen can just literally give him 60 seconds to give his response without interrupting him.
Okay.
It's going to be holograms.
Hold
No.
on.
No, it's not even relevant. I'm just going to revert back to what you're actually looking at here and how that would work on a globe. Because how can the sun at millions miles away on a globe be shining underneath the clouds? How can that be?
Very.
So with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. Also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.